Hi, welcome to Let's Talk About Scams. I'm your host, Joyce Petrowski, founder of R.O.S E Resources Outreach to Safeguard the Elderly. You can find more resources on our website at roseadvocacy.org. You can also sign up for our monthly email or mailed newsletters on the website. And don't forget, you're going to want to click subscribe so you don't miss an episode of Let's Talk About Scams. Well, today I've got a guest. His name is George Phillips, and he is the business development person with Just in Time Moving. He's also associated with Arizona Movers Association, and he's going to talk to us about what to do when you're looking for a moving company, whether it's just in the state of Arizona or you're looking to move from one state to another state, or they even do international. So let's bring him in. Hi, George. Welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Happy to do so, Joyce. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah. So why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
So my name's George Phillips. I'm the business development manager for a local moving company here in Mesa, Arizona. We do local, long distance, and international moving. We specialize in a number of different things, senior moving being one of those. A very vulnerable population, and so we like to make sure that move goes extremely well. For folks who are struggling, to make sure that move goes well, especially so when it could go wrong, a lot of times, unfortunately.
Right.
So
Exactly.
So
do you guys go ahead? No, I was just going to say, do you guys do a lot of people moving into Arizona from other states?
Yeah, we do a lot going in and a lot going out, and so and not necessarily. When we started, when I started 6 years ago here at Just in Time Moving as a business development manager, we made sure a lot of those connections either started or ended in Arizona, but not necessarily anymore. We've kind of created a good network where they could kind of really be on the way, and so and I tell people call, and so the only way you know if that move would work is to call our office, and so I move all of our calls into our office, and if we can make it work, we try to make it work.
So it's better for somebody to call your office to talk about the move versus going online and doing something online?
They could look online, but what I found is, I'm kind of more of a relationship guy, and so I like to, belly to belly, face to face networking, and so in doing that, most of the people really like to pick up the phone and just talk to somebody, and so I think our folks do an incredibly great job of helping set that tone, put people at ease at one of a stressful time in their life. Yeah, I mean, they can go online and get information, but picking up the phone is probably the best always way.
So with all the moving that you've been involved in your 6 years there, are there any specific incidences where involving the older adults, maybe they were with another moving company, and I've heard that people's belongings get held for ransom, for lack of a better term. And I mean, have you guys encountered any of that stuff?
Yeah, we run across that from time to time. Unfortunately, it seems like it's lessened a little bit, but there's kind of like,
well, that's good,
spikes here and there. So 4 years ago, we started the Arizona Moving Association, so we found more and more of those calls that have come to us and through the association. But yeah, you run across those from time to time, unfortunately, where people will have their goods held hostage.
That's the better term.
Yeah, hostage. We call them hostage shipments. And really, what we've done is we worked back even before my time here, 2017. Justin, our owner, and then one of the owners of Camelback Moving, Chad Olson, and then some other the Dirks Moving, worked with the Arizona Trucking Associations to help put through a law on hostage shipments. And so it's actually a law that's on the books. And so most times when folks will call 911 or non-emergent, they'll go, hey, listen, someone's got my goods, and they won't give them to me. They're demanding extra money. And a lot of times, unfortunately, the dispatch person on the phone, nothing wrong, but they just don't know. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and they'll go, well, that's a civil matter. And it's not a civil matter. It's someone's goods are held hostage, and so um, you cannot hold stuff on your truck um, and then demand extra money.
So that law that
Hmm.
got put into place, is that just in Arizona
Yeah,
or is that a federal
that's
law?
just in Arizona.
It's
Yeah,
just in. So if it was, so it's going to hit any moving company that their destination is Arizona or they operate out of
an
Arizona.
interstate move from out of state into Arizona. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. That they're for the hostage shipments. And so it's not a civil matter. So does that make it a criminal matter then?
Yeah, absolutely. There's steps that folks need to follow. You know, so couple of folks that kind of oversee our industry is the Arizona Attorney General's office and the Arizona Department of Public Safety's Commercial Vehicle Enforcement. And so um, anything intrastate, which is a move within the state of Arizona, is handled by the Arizona Attorney General's office, and then the Arizona Department of Public Safety's Commercial Vehicle Enforcement handles most of the interstate moves, and so state to state anytime you cross state lines.
So if somebody has an issue that they can't get resolved with a moving company that's within Arizona, the move is within
Yep.
Arizona, they should call the Arizona Attorney General's
Yep. Yeah.
office.
Yeah.
And anybody that's got an interstate move that is Arizona, but it also involves another state, normally they're probably moving to Arizona from another state. They should call the, say it again, because it's a
Yeah,
lot.
I know it's a lot. The Arizona Department of
Yeah.
Public Safety, the DPS, com- Commercial Vehicle Enforcement.
Okay, and then we'll have the links to both of those in the show notes, so people can get that information and know exactly where to go to if they have issues they cannot get resolved. You always want to try to get the issue resolved with the company, right? Because it could be that the people in the office at the company don't know what's going on, and you bring it to their attention, and then they can resolve it. But if they can't, it's nice to know that there's other measures that can be taken.
100%. And that almost leads me to my original point to a lot of
Sure.
this stuff is since we created the Arizona Moving Association, we'll get phone calls from people who will complain about a mover, and I'll be like, what's the name of your moving company? And they'll say, well, um, XYZ Moving, and I said, well, XYZ Moving unfortunately isn't part of the Arizona Moving Association, and that I have no jurisdiction, I have no teeth, I have nothing I can do. I mean, I could call them and say, hey, XYZ Moving, this is the Arizona Moving Association. For the most part, they're really not going to care. They're going to hang up the phone. And so I tell consumers all the time, do your research before the move, not after the move. Do your research on who the mover is. Make sure that they have maybe a motor carrier number, a DOT number, especially if they're going interstate. Make sure they're part of local and national moving associations, whatever that industry association is. And so those are important stuff for people to do.
Okay. Yeah, that's great because that's one thing we try to educate people on is, you can't just trust people. You have to go verify,
Yep.
Everything first before you can trust them. So those are good points. We always try to tell people, and give them the information on, well, how can you verify? What should you do? And
Yep.
so, asking for that DOT number, or what was the first one you said?
Yeah. The motor carrier number.
The motor carrier number or the
Yeah.
DOT number, they
Yeah.
should probably get both. I mean, there shouldn't be any reason why the moving company wouldn't give that information out, right?
100%. And you can always, there's sites I can give you that people can go on and research through the
Okay.
Department of Transportation.
Are they going to be on that PDF that you have?
It's a different, yeah, unfortunately, it's a different form. We tried to create this
Okay.
form with the Arizona Attorney General's office,
Okay.
just as kind of a one sheeter, A, for consumers, but B, that it can get out to, the beat officers on the street and
Right.
dispatch and those folks. So
Okay.
when these calls do come in, they can really help kind of move these things along.
How does the Arizona Moving Association work with other moving companies? You said someone can call the moving association and they file a complaint. So what would happen if the moving company the person's filing a complaint on is a member of the
Yeah,
association?
and we've had a few of those where it's just kind of been, just miscommunication. And so somebody thought they heard something. And we had to call one of the moving companies and say, hey, listen, got a phone call. Um, just want to just double check. And they said, yeah, that's not quite what happened, George. Here's really what happened. And so I said, okay, well, I called the consumer back. I said, hey, listen, can I get that in writing? I just want to make sure I get everything in writing. I want to verify this. I'm gonna get a response back from the moving company, and then I'll see if we need to, we'll get on a three-way call. And so they sent me their response. The moving company sent me their response, and then I shared it with both as an introductory email. And how do we work through this? And they're like, I got a phone call or an email from both of them saying, "Hey, problem's resolved. Everything's good." And so a lot of it is just making sure they got on the same page, and someone just sometimes just wants to be heard, or uh,
Right, right. And with anything, communication is key. And people's perception is key because even though you communicate, somebody might have a perception different than the other party, right? And so it's just making sure they both understand that. So,
yeah. The unfortunate part is most of the time it's been from movers who aren't part of our association, and I go look at these people's websites and their stock photos, their links on their website that don't go to anything. They might put like one of the National Association logos on their site. I mean, yeah, but it's like calling, and you see the logo, but it's like sometimes call and verify or go to their website. And like for us, we put all of our moving companies on our website. That's an active list of who our members are. And so,
and there's probably a lot of other states that have this type of moving association because
yeah.
although moving has very little regulation in Arizona, there might be other states that have a lot more regulation.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. California, New York, New Jersey, Illinois. A lot of these guys are very well regulated. And so we're working on. We don't listen. We don't want to. We always say we don't want to be overly regulated, but what we want to do is
Oh,
to
right.
at least create some kind of minimum baseline of consumer protection, so that when the consumer has confidence when then they're reaching out to the moving
Right.
company, that they know that they're being taken care of.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, for whether it's, some older adults that are looking for moving companies or maybe their families are helping them out, um, what would you say would be maybe the first two or three things that they should do? And I don't know, maybe that's all, is just two or three things that would give them an idea as to who their top picks are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I always say, kind of, do your research, right? I mean, there's a lot of great websites. DOT puts out one. So we're regulated kind of over interstate wise also by DOT. Obviously, I mentioned having a DOT number and a motor carrier number. Those are run through the Department of Transportation. There's a group right underneath the Department of Transportation called the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, the FMCSA. And so um, the, those guys, kind of help, regulate our industry, oversee our industry. And so, but they put out a lot of good information. And so one of the websites is protectyourmove.gov. And so there's videos, there's brochures that customers should get, especially when doing an interstate move. And so, one of the big red flags I always tell everybody is, if you're doing an interstate move and somebody doesn't come to your house to do an in-home estimate, you probably shouldn't hire those guys. You know, if you're doing an interstate move, you should have an in-home estimate. It is required to have eyes on it. So it could be a virtual or an in-home, but in-home is the preferred method, especially if you're like in the Valley of the Sun. There's no reason that you shouldn't. If you're in an outlying area,
A more
you know,
rural area, right?
or
There
rural
might
area,
be,
there,
right. It
yeah, it
might
might
be
be a
more
little bit more
difficult
challenging.
to get to them. But even virtual can have its limitations, right? Because then you're
100%.
relying on the person to make sure they show
Yep,
the mover that's doing the estimate all of the
yep,
rooms and the whole room, and
yep, yep.
what the homeowner might think is no big deal, the mover, it would be a big deal, right?
Oh,
If they've got to
100%.
take
Yeah,
something apart, if it's got glass in it, you know, if it's heavy, just a lot of different things. It could be a big piece of furniture that you're thinking, oh, this isn't going to be any big deal, but trying to get it through the doors
Yep.
and around tight corners, it could be a big deal, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing is better than an estimator or in-home
In
estimator
home.
being there and looking at the job. And that goes from backing in the driveway, coming down the road, making sure they've got a clear access
Okay.
to the house, where they're going to park the trucks.
That's true.
Like you
Right.
said, in and around the house,
Right.
upstairs, the whole picture. And
Right.
so,
Yeah.
but we don't want any challenges come move day. The
Right.
move day is stressful enough, and so.
Exactly. I mean,
Um,
I've seen it before where a couch has had to go up over a balcony on the second floor and in through the sliding glass doors because you could go up the stairs with it, but you couldn't turn the tight corner and get it in the door.
Yeah,
So,
especially as you get into like the East Coast and some of those, even some homes in Arizona, but mostly a lot of times we see those in like East Coast when we go deliver to like Boston or New York.
yeah.
Sometimes they're up and in windows, and so.
Okay. Is
But
there,
the other thing I always tell everybody is to to downsize and organize, and so
oh, yeah.
don't pay for things that you don't need to move.
Exactly, right. That's a good thing. Purging, right? Go through
Yeah,
your stuff
purge.
and get rid of what you're not going to use because if it's going to be moved and on the truck and moved into your new place, you're paying for it, right?
100%. And I always tell everybody, listen, if you're moving, especially from state to state or even with the international moves, if it's not going to fit your decor where you're going, don't take it.
Yeah, that's
You're
true.
better off selling it, leaving it, and then buying new when you get there. And
Right,
so,
right. Yeah,
um,
donating it to a charity, having a
yep,
garage sale, taking it to the church rummage sale,
yep,
whatever works. But is
100%.
is there do you know of any sort of like insurance that a homeowner could get that like would cover the move?
Yeah, actually, so part of that's a good part about having starting the moving association. So we've developed relationships with folks
Okay.
all over the country. And just last week we did a podcast through our association. We do vendor spotlights, and
Okay.
so one of our vendor spotlights was relocationinsurance.com or
Oh,
movinginsurance.com. So
okay.
relocation insurance. And so
All right.
Gaddy is out of New Jersey and sells in all 50 states,
Okay.
and offers that for moving companies and
Okay.
clients. And so
So,
because one of the biggest headaches for most moving companies is unfortunately claims. And so
right.
it's
Yeah.
one of the things we don't like to deal with. It's
Right. Yeah, no. I mean,
you know,
that could end up making that move a loss, right?
yes, no,
Um
100%.
So so you've got protectyourmove.com to go on and
Protectyourmove.gov.
oh, protectyourmove.gov, that's
Yep,
G-O-V,
yep,
where you can go on and watch videos and get information on really what you should do
yep,
and verifying and all that stuff. But then
yeah,
you've got for the insurance, it's Move Insurance.
yeah. Moving insurance, relocation insurance
Dot com.
.com. I think it's under movinginsurance.com. I believe. I'm almost positive.
Okay.
Movinginsurance.com. That
Is that it?
movinginsurance.com.
That's
Yep.
and then they would get to that company that you guys interviewed.
Yep. Yeah, it's a relocation insurance group company. Yeah, Gaddy Bennis is his name. Yep.
Okay,
And
relocation
and
insurance.
and a lot of moving professional moving companies do offer. Um, we don't like to call it insurance. We always like to call it coverage. And
Okay,
so a lot of moving companies will offer more than the standard 60 cents per pound
okay,
coverage, which is terrible coverage if
yeah,
anyone's ever weighed their TV. So if you think your TV weighs, I don't know,
yeah.
15 pounds times 60 cents, that's what you're getting if that thing breaks.
Wow,
And so
wow.
the 60 cents a pound is not great.
No,
As you start to move, you'll interstate, you'll see that that
okay,
number will be a little bit more, but
okay. Well, that's another good thing is to ask the moving company if they
yep,
have insurance, they have coverage
yep,
in case of damages. Which I can imagine that damages happen. I don't know, maybe half the time, a quarter of the time, because Sometimes just walking with a piece of glass and you're going from air conditioned to 115 degrees and all of a sudden, or vice versa, that glass just shatters, right? It's
Well,
the temperature
yeah,
differences like out here in Arizona.
yeah, and I would say that one of the last conferences I went to, I think they said 20%. It's probably at a 20% damage ratio is an industry average. Um, and I think last time I talked to Justin, I think we sat at about 11 or 12%, which is still pretty good underneath the industry average. But what I would say though is, it's amazing how you move things from one house that has different light to another house that has different light, and you might see scratches or blemishes or things that you think might get damaged. That's why for movers, we always try to tell our guys on the trucks is, listen, if you see something, literally say something to the customer before you pick it up, like, hey, I just want to let you know this is what I'm seeing, and so
That's a good point because every house has different lighting, right?
yep,
And you're
100%.
right. You get into a brighter light and all of a sudden now you see these scratches, or
Yep.
you move something away from the wall and it's been there for 30 years, but it's been away enough that your cat could get back there and maybe scratch something, right? You
Yep.
just don't know. Or maybe the puppy chewed on the corner that you didn't
Yeah.
see, right?
No,
So,
absolutely. That's why I always tell you, we don't want to be, every single item. Hey, look at this. Hey, look at this. But
right.
it's a little bit of CYA. And a lot of professional movers, especially as you move interstate, will do that. They'll do a professional inventory. They'll write down damages. They'll make sure that the customer is aware of those before we load those,
Okay.
just to make sure is that's happening. Especially on interstate moves, because our trucks aren't exactly like an air ride, and so it's not exactly the smoothest.
Well, no, and
Uh,
you also have the road conditions, right?
exactly. So
And you just never know. I mean, I'm sure you guys, they're driving the big semis, right? Full of furniture. And I can't tell you how many times out on the road I have seen a passenger vehicle pull in front of a semi. I mean, like no space.
yeah,
Or they pull in front and then they slam their brakes on. And it's like,
yeah,
okay, semis can't stop on a dime. You're
no, yeah, and especially when they're loaded down, you know. So we have a couple of different options. So when we do our interstate moves, we do those a lot of times still on our 26-foot box straight trucks. Um, yeah, and so but also we do have partners, and that's part of the reason of being engaged and involved in your industry. Like we have at Just in Time and starting the Moving Association as well, is we've developed partnerships and relationships with a lot of these. Some larger van lines, and some other partners who have good networks that we can kind of plug into, and we've been able to plug into on some of our what we call as LTL shipments, less than a load. And so we have options for folks. So it's like, and that's why I always tell everybody, if there's a call or someone has a job, I send it to the office every time. I let the office kind of take care of the this all the interesting stuff. Can we do that? Is it too small? Is it too big? Where's it going?
right.
All that. So
Well, no two moves are the same.
no, no,
They
hundred
might be
percent.
going from the same destination to the same destination,
Yeah,
but they're not the same. So
exactly.
that's why it's always good to call and you can talk to them and maybe whoever in the office brings up a point that you weren't even thinking about.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, no,
anyways,
exactly. So we some people go, man, that's a lot of questions you guys ask, and it's like, well, we just want to make sure that
yeah.
we are gathering as much information as possible to help that move day go as smooth as possible.
Well, exactly. And then also to quote them one thing and then all of a sudden if you don't ask the questions and then get the information, then all of a sudden your quote now goes up 50% or something like that. And then they're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, wait, what's going on?" Right? So you
Yeah,
got to get
exactly.
that information.
And that's why we always try to take an inventory, over the phone. And if we're pretty comfortable after talking to the client that that's going to be a one truck job, we're fine with that. But if we're teetering like that, that looks like it might be 1 into 2 trucks. We're probably going to have an estimator go out and take a look at it. Or if it's 2 into 3 trucks, or upwards of that, we just want to make sure that we're making sure that move day goes as smooth as possible for you. So having have yeah, yeah. So I always tell her, even if you as a consumer say, hey, listen, I want someone to come look at this. I've got a couple either A, challenging pieces, or B, um, I've always had an estimator come look at my stuff. Great. We would rather err on the side of caution and get some eyes on everything. So,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, wow, it's a lot of
yeah.
information, but a lot of great information, because it's, unless you're in the industry, the layperson doesn't think about these things. They're just like, well, you're going to put my stuff on a truck and I'm packing it. You're going to put it on. But speaking of packing,
Yeah.
you guys also offer, if somebody's just like, I don't even want to pack,
Yep.
you
Yep.
guys offer those services where you'll come in and pack the house up as well, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we come in, we do full packing for folks. We sell boxes, we sell packing materials for people. The other great thing is we do loading and unloading. And so when people move from the Midwest and they come out here and it's 120 degrees, they're like, "Yeah, I'm not unloading." So a lot of times we'll do those jobs. But yeah, packing's a part of ours. Especially as you move, internationally. Like a lot of countries won't accept a homeowner to pack their own stuff. It has to be professionally packed by a mover because certain items aren't allowed in certain countries.
Oh, okay. Well, that
You
makes
know,
sense. I see another
you know,
thing that you wouldn't know, but a good moving company is going to know these things.
yep, yeah, no, absolutely. The lithium batteries are one of those things that are a very hot topic in our industry, and so how many lithium batteries, what are able to how big are they able to be, and so. Um, yeah, having a professional mover really has its weight in gold. So well worth the money spent. The other thing I always tell everybody is to make sure you plan that move. So as soon as you know a move date, that's the best time to call. But what I see people doing, unfortunately, I just got a text this weekend from somebody, George, I need to move somebody next week. I'm like, we might not have availability. And a lot of times when you put a mover in that predicament, you end up they the professional mover who you were used to using is booked because it's summer and we're booked in the summer. We're usually booked 3-4 weeks in advance, and so usually trying to find someone who could do it last minute is a challenge, and that's usually when you end up with those bad actors in the
Right.
industry.
Less than credible. Right.
Yep.
That you're going to then have to, settle for and hope that everything goes okay. So, right.
Yep.
So call as soon as you know that move date.
Yeah, as soon as you know that move date, even though that date might switch, a day or so here or there, depending on a closing date or depending on,
Yeah.
whatever life, as long as you're on the schedule, most moving companies will find a way to accommodate that.
Good.
So
Good. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, George, so much for sharing all this information and
welcome.
giving the community some things to do before they hire a moving company to make sure that they're dealing with a reputable company and how to protect themselves and all these valuable resources. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me. Always happy to share.
That was a lot of information George had for us, but really good information. People move all of the time. They might move within a state, intrastate moving, or they move from one state to another state, which is interstate moving, or they could move internationally, to another country, or they could be moving from another country into the United States. So there's a lot of information about when you know you're going to be moving, you might not know the date yet, but you know you're going to be moving. So you're going to be looking for a moving company. Well, there's a lot of information that George gave us on what we could do, right? We could go in and you can go to the Department of Transportation and look at who they have listed, because any moving company that moves interstate from state to state should have a Department of Transportation number, and you can get that from them, and you can look them up. But you also, you want to get on their website. You want to see if they belong to any state or national moving associations. Every state is different with the moving companies. Arizona, there are some regulations. There's not a lot, but he also gave us some information that if you have an issue with a moving company where the destination is in Arizona, and you've tried to resolve the situation with a moving company, but you've not been able to, where you can then you can report it to the Arizona Attorney General, or you could report it to, there's a division in the police department that handles these trucking and safety information. All that stuff will be in the show notes. There's also a website called protectyourmove.org. That's protectyourmove.org, where you can go on and watch videos. You can get some resources on a variety of different things with moving. We also talked about you're going to want, especially if you're doing interstate moving from state to state, you want to make sure you have somebody come to your house that can do an estimate so they can see. You can do it virtually, but it's not the same if they come to your house, because when they come there physically, they can see the driveway, where the garage is. They're going to be coming out the front door, what the road is like, where they're going to have to put their truck. They can see, how low the ceilings are or how high they are, how tight the corners are when they're having to move things around, all of that stuff. But if you're going to have somebody come to your house, make sure you set up an appointment so you're expecting them. But then make sure that they can show you identification that they are who they are, because you just don't want to let anybody in your house, right? So once again, you can find all of our resources at roseadvocacy.org, and you can sign up for our monthly emailed or mailed newsletters, or both. Just scroll down on the homepage and you'll find the links. And you're going to want to click subscribe so you don't miss an episode of our bi-weekly podcast, Let's Talk About Scams. Thank you.